Kumudini Pati, an independent researcher associated with the Center for Women's Studies, Allahabad University. And we are dealing with paper number 12, which is Women in Science and Technology. And this is module 3, which deals with women in science and technology in India. Now, women have made their mark in the field of science. Despite the world of science and technology historically remaining a male domain, many pioneering women have gate-crashed into this predominantly male preserve. They have struggled against all odds to make their mark and registered several remarkable success stories. But their share in the science establishment remains very low, in between 1/6 to 1/5 of the total strength. Now, gender equality becomes a distant dream when we see the establishment of science and technology, because in India, women constitute over 1/3 of the total science undergraduate and graduate degree holders, but they comprise only between 15 to 20% of the tenured faculty across research institutes and universities in India. Now, we will discuss the Indian National Science Academy or the INSA report. Relatively higher representation of women is seen in low status jobs according to this report. For example, junior or ad hoc faculty, temporary research associates, postdoctoral fellows, etc. in the field of science that have been vacated actually by the men due to their lower profitability. And there have been systemic biases which have been operating against women. The dominant opinion regarding women dropping out of higher education in science or out of a career in science institutions is that it happens because of familial, social and cultural hurdles. But the Indian Academy of Science and the National Institute of Advanced Study conducted a study in 2010, and the findings of this study point towards systemic biases that have been operating at the organizational level within the science establishments themselves as a significant contributing factor. Now, what are these systemic biases? We see that 35.06% women enroll in the science and allied disciplines in universities. The number of women scientists is as low as 14.3% only. A prominent scientist, Dr. Shruti Muralidharan, says that actually India has failed to promote the aspirations of its women scientists. Now, when it comes to the contradiction between the family and the career, we see that parents do not encourage higher studies in science. They think that this will prove too taxing after marriage, since competition to remain and advance in science careers begins at the earliest stage, soon after a woman does her PhD. It is important for the woman to establish herself during this early period, that is when she is in her 30s. And this period coincides for most Indian women with responsibilities of the family and the commitments towards the family. Now, breaks or temporary research positions of 3 to 5 years during this period do not offer any kind of advantage in moving up the ladder at a later stage when familial commitments take a back seat. So, what we see is that women fall out of the science establishments. Women scientists make a big compromise. What is this compromise? A large number of qualified women scientists generally opt for undergraduate or school level teaching, because that is not very taxing for them and they can do it along with the family commitments. Some of them, however, totally drop out of the science establishment. Absence from active research through breaks cannot be compensated for at a later stage, because there is a very highly competitive environment in the field of science. So, what is the answer we are looking for? Policies designed to provide extended maternity breaks or temporary research projects may actually not address the central problem, and rather they may work against the interests of women. Women Scientists Scheme, which is named as WOS, was launched in 2002-2003, and this has provided some opportunities, but there should also be many safeguards against forcing women to spend long hours in the laboratories. Now, there is a proverbial glass ceiling that keeps blocking the rise of women in science and technology. For example, there is an absence of job opportunities after completing research or higher education, and this becomes a major issue for women. Gender insensitive organizational practices are there, like forcing women to do night work, refusing adequate leave for child care and the care of elders, and indiscriminate kind of travel schedules which also exist. There is also some kind of workplace gender discrimination in the allocation of work and in entrusting responsibilities, giving some kind of ranking or status to women and giving opportunities for travel, for lectures and demonstrations, for promotions and recognition of achievements. And of course, there is nepotism and a very opaque kind of a selection process which is actually gender biased. There are other problems also. For example, there is sexual harassment in the science establishment which is very high. Low representation of women in senior and decision making levels. For this data, you can consult the subsections which summarize the INSA report of 2004. And of course, there is a greater share of balancing the commitments of the family rather than the male counterparts. Now, the INSA report of 2004, the Indian National Science Academy had constituted a committee to investigate the issue of science careers for women and suggest some measures to increase women's participation in study and practice of science. This was indeed a very unique effort in trying to understand the reasons for the poor participation of women in science and technology, and also to give some recommendations to overcome this. This committee had come up with its report in 2004, and this was the first ever very comprehensive report on the status of women in science and technology. According to this report, the percentage of enrollment of women in universities and university level institutions and colleges in India increased to 28.5% in 50 years, and this was between 1950-51 to 2000-2001, and it increased to 6.8% in the next 15 years, which is a very small percentage in the years 2001 to 2016. Now, when we see the rise of percentage of women in science courses from 1995-96 to 2000 and 2001, then we see the percentage in the science courses as 2.4%, in medicine which is slightly higher 4.2%, engineering and technology, which is slightly higher, 5.5%. And we see the percentage of women among the scientific staff in government and research and development institutes and also in some universities here. This is a pointer to the fact that the percentage in these institutions of higher study in science are very, very low as relates to women. For example, if you take the CSIR, you will see that the percentage is very small, 13.0%. If you see the biotechnology department, then you see that it is 31.6%. In ICMR, that is the Indian Council for Medical Research, it is 27.3%. In the Department of Atomic Energy, you will find it is only 16.5%. In the Department of Defense, it is even lower at 8.7%. In the Indian Institute of Science, if you see the academic staff, the percentage is only 6.6%. And if you see the scientific staff in the IISc, you will find it at 9.7%. It does not even reach 10%. In the Hyderabad University Science Department, it is just 15.8%, and in JNU, in the science schools, you will find it at 16.0%. So, these numbers show that women are still on the margins. Now, the S.S. Bhatnagar Award, which is the highest award in science, is one of the indicators as to how women have been struggling to achieve what men have already achieved in large numbers. Now, out of 525 Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar awardees, only 16, this is a very, very small, minuscule number, I can say, only 16 have been women. Now, if you see in different disciplines, you will see that in biology and medicine, it is slightly better at 8 out of 152. In the physical sciences, there are no women out of 94. And in chemical sciences, you will find only 3 women awardees out of 91. In earth, planetary and other sciences, you will find only 1 woman out of 46. And in the engineering sciences, it is 2 out of 75, whereas in mathematics, it is 2 out of 67. Now, there was an effort to bring women to write in journals of science. So, in March 2017, as a unique gesture for Women's Day, we see that the science establishment was trying to showcase the contribution of women scientists in science journal. And these 3 science journals were Resonance, the Physics News and Current Science. They produced issues with all women authorship for the whole month of March. And the women authorship for these journals in general has been actually very low at 15%, 10% and 15% respectively. Now, the IAS NIAS study, which was submitted to the government in 2010, was based on a survey which was conducted among 568 women scientists. And it was found that most scientific organizations have a greater proportion of men compared to women, especially in decision making posts. And the difference in understanding of the problem between men and women, of course, has important implications. Provisions that are designed without consultation of both the experiences of women as well as men who are part of this workspace cannot yield the desired results. Science and technology is considered a male domain by most scientists. Most scientists themselves do not acknowledge women in the science establishment, and they somehow think that the level of scientific research will come down very much if women join. And so, this whole superiority and supremacy in the field of science by men is there, and they think that that would be compromised if women enter in large numbers. Now, some of the recommendations that came out of this report were general neutral facilities and policies. This could be critical in attracting and retaining women in science. Provisions of on-campus housing, transportation, state-of-the-art child care, elder care facilities, as well as professionalized domestic helps for both women and men faculty at all the science and technology organizations, including universities, research organizations and autonomous organizations, could be of importance for scientists. The other thing was to evolve a gender neutral policy of flexible timings in all the science and technology organizations that could allow one to manage multiple responsibilities, that is, manage the family responsibilities, child care, elder care, along with science studies. Then increasing opportunities for networking and collaboration through increased number of travel grants, organizing workshops, conferences, etc., dedicated to facilitate collaborations. Some of the policy changes which were recommended were policy on the time bound target recruiting system, which is called the TRS, for institutions that do not have adequate representation of women at all levels, from students up to the level of faculty. Mandatory composition of 1/3 women members in committees, and a policy of employment of spouses in the same organization, because many times you see that both the spouses are in the same establishment. Government initiatives have been, the Department of Science and Technology, the DST, has launched its first scheme in 2002, and this is to promote the role of women in science and technology, and this has launched several initiatives since then. The 2002 Women Scientist Scheme was supposed to support women who have taken a career break. The INSA report of 2004 was the first comprehensive report on the status of women in science and technology and the ways and means of promoting their role. The report was presented to the government in 2009, and that led to the formation of a task force for women under the DST. The British Council, in partnership with the UK Science and Innovation Network and Department of Science and Technology, organized a workshop on 12th February of 2015 on women in science and technology, engineering and mathematics, that is STEM. So, we say that women need STEM and STEM also needs women. The Standing Committee for Promoting Women in Science. The Department of Science and Technology under the Ministry of Science and Technology, through an office memorandum dated 11th March 2016, that is last year, notified that constitution of a standing committee will be there for promoting women in science, and the standing committee would make some kind of proactive measures to identify and correct any imbalances that were still pending and which were hindering women in science and technology. So, we can say that science is logically very beautiful, and there is no reason why a human would not be drawn towards it, be it a female or a male. That is, there should be no gender discrimination in the field of science, as said by scientist Amanpreet Kaur. Thank you.